having not heard from the Spirit of God. And so there was this moment, this specific moment, if you read from the book of Joshua, chapter number 7 and verses 1, that there was this time that Joshua sent men from Jericho to the city of Ai. They were supposed to attack this city. They were supposed to possess this city because God has already given them the land for their inheritance. And when Joshua sent his men, and his men brought the report, they brought a good report, and they told Joshua, you know what, the city is small, we don't need so many men. In fact, we need around 300 men to go and overtake the land. And so this is the same thing. Because Joshua was told we need around 2,000 or 3,000 men to go up and smite Ai. And so what happened was Joshua was like, yeah, because we don't need so many men, he just did the same. And mark you, he had already heard the voice of God. And so what happened is something out of the expectation happened. These people were defeated. The armies of Joshua were defeated. And the Bible says they were smote, and the hearts of the people of Israel melted and became like water. So this was just, what? God, you sent us on a mission and we were defeated. This cannot be. And so the other verses that follows is like Joshua was very angry. He was very confused. He went to God and he asked God, how could this be? We followed your voice. This is you. You're supposed to be with us on this. And he told him, you know what? Something happened. There was this man called Achan, the son of Carmi, and he had stolen the things that was offered to idol. And that is why they were defeated. And you see, if you are familiar with that story, you know what happened. He was stoned to death, and he was even stoned with his own family. And it was a lot of bad stuff happening there. And so God sent them on a mission. He told them, go, I'll be with you. But in the process, some mistake found itself in, and the mission was complicated. It was compromised. And so they were defeated. Another scenario I want us to see is from Abraham, our faith, our father of faith. You remember when God told Abraham to depart and go to the land where God will show him. And that's exactly what happened. In fact, the next verse says, Abraham departed. And Abraham was very key. He treasured the voice of God. And so what happened was, when Abraham departed and went into the land that God showed him, not after so long ago that there was a famine in the land. And so now another confusion comes. God, there is a famine in the land. You sent me in this land. What is happening? It was so easy for Abraham to question his decision. It was so easy for him to question, did I even hear God? Am I acting on my own accord? Did I hear well? Because we always expect that when God calls us, he doesn't take us to the wilderness. We never saw the valleys, the shadows of death. When we talk about God, we only see, the levels, the breakthrough, the glory after glory, order of promotion. That is what comes in our mind. But something good and something wonderful happened is that the same year, on the same land, that Abraham sowed on the land and he reaped 100-fold. What about that? That is the best thing about it, because Abraham did not compromise. Abraham did not just say, oh God, I don't understand, so what am I going to do? But this is what God does. When you walk by the Spirit of God, when you walk by the voice of God, God will show you his secret. God will reveal to you what you need to do. Maybe you don't even have to search further. Maybe what you are looking is just light within you. But you need God to open your eyes. You need to access the secret of God to survive, to make it through your own season. Because the Bible says there are people who are on the same land. People were dying. The cows were dying because there is no water. There is no anything. There was a famine. But can you imagine on the same land, someone leaping 100-fold, full season? He didn't miss anything. And so the Bible says that, let's talk about Moses before we see another example. Moses is another character that we all envy. You know, people, when you think about Moses, the Bible says he was the meekest man. And the Bible says the meek shall inherit the land. And so when you talk about Moses, God gave him a very great task. It was a very vital task that you can't even compare with today's. Everything that happened to Moses was very crucial because he was delivering the people of God. He was delivering the children of God from captivity. But let me tell you something. What happened was they reached a place where I can call it a dead end. You know, when they reached the Dead Sea, and you remember behind them, Pharaoh and his armies were just coming. They were so furious. They were like, we are going to kill you. We are going to return you back to Egypt. And so Moses reached a place that he can't go further because there was a sea. He can't go back. So he reached a place where unless God does a miracle, unless God you show up, and it is not like 1 hour, you have to show up now, we are done. Maybe you can think about this for a moment, because we hate to find ourselves in such situations. We hate to find ourselves in such places. You find yourself that you don't have a place to move about. You don't have so many decisions to make. You don't have a choice. But anyway, you find yourself in this situation, and what do? The Bible says in the moment, because God is a covenant keeper, God always keeps his word. And he told Moses, he gave Moses the next instruction. And so what you need to wait for God, when you find yourself, you are in this situation. I don't know where you are at the moment. I don't know where you are in this situation, and you feel like you want to give up. Please don't give up. The only thing you need to ask God is the next instruction. And God is about to give you the next instruction, because God gave Moses the next instruction. And wow, lo and behold, there was a way, a clear way on the, there was a clear way on the sea, and they crossed. And what happened was, this was the moment, this was the day God had made, because the same enemies that were attacking them, they also followed them. And once the Israelites, the children of God, had crossed to the other side, God closed the sea. And so what happened was, the same situation, the same enemies that have been following them for a long time, they perished on that same moment. They perished on the same position, on the same point. So what can we learn in this same situation? We can learn that the Bible says that the enemies that you see right now, you will never see them again. Because this is what we always pray to God, that, oh Lord, I don't want to see this kind of a situation again. I never want to go through what I'm going through again. It's so painful. I can't bear it. It's like I don't even know what to do. This is too much for me. But there are some things that we are about to learn here that is going to shock you. Because let's see the situation of Daniel, when he was thrown into the lion's den. You remember, Daniel was a prayerful man. He used to pray 3 times a day. And his enemies saw him, and they were like, you know what? We are going to make you go down. And the problem that their enemies did was that they attacked the area of his strength, because what you do more, what you love to do more is the area of your strength. And the enemy made a very huge mistake. They attacked his area of strength, and they told the king, "Oh, King, live forever. There is somebody who is divine your roles and the instruction." And that is what happened. He was thrown into the lion's den. So what happened was, God sent his angels with him, and he closed the mouth of the lion, and they did not die. And Daniel was just there. Maybe, I don't know what kind of a situation he was there, because lions doesn't understand the language of prayers, of intercession. You can speak in tongues all the way you want, but lions understand one language, and that is meat. So you can imagine how long that night was, being in a cave with lions. And God God closed at the mouth of the lion. Let's see about the Meshach and Abednego, how these three Hebrew boys faced in the sight of the king. You remember what happened? This was the same situation. These people have just kept themselves pure for God. And what happened was, the king said, you know what, if you don't bow upon this, God, it was just, it was a god. They made himself a golden statue. And he said, if you don't bow upon it, we are going to throw you into the furnace of fire. Something I like about these people, they say, these three Hebrew boys, the Bible says, let us tell you, O king, let us brief you for a minute before you throw us there. We don't care, whether we are going to perish or we are going to make it. We are okay. He said to them, they said to the king, let us tell you, O king, who live forever, we are not going to bow upon your God. And we know that our God has the power to save us. Our God has the power to save us from the affliction that you're about to afflict us with. And even if God will decide not to save us, we are not going to bow upon your God. And the king was so furious, and he said, I want you to hit that thing 7 more times. And this is the same thing that happened. And these people were thrown into the furnace of fire. But something amazing happened was the king said, oh, I don't understand. Did you not throw 3 men and we bound them, and now I can see 4 men and they are all free, and one of them looked like a son of God. And then he said, I can't believe my eyes. Can anybody look maybe clear for me, because I don't understand. These people did not even, they don't even get burned. They don't even have the smell. And he said, remove those people. And one thing we are not supposed to miss here is that the men that threw these men to the furnace of fire died. They were all burnt up because it was a huge fire. You can imagine the pressure. You can imagine even the steam itself, burnt them. And he said, can you lose them? Can you bring them out? We need to understand what kind of the power is this. And so I want you to understand one thing, that it is very key to understand, in as much as you're going to make this alive, you're going to make this strong, you're going to come out of the other side. There are things you're supposed to learn. This is a great revelation God has given us this morning. And so the lessons that we can learn from these great personalities in the Bible is that, number 1, do not place an accusation towards the true anointed man of God. Why? Because the punishment is so severe. It is too much. It is too much to handle. What happened when the enemies accused Daniel? Daniel was a man of God. So what happens was, these people, and the king said, you know what, I want to see those who accused you. They are going to pay with their wife, with their families. And they were thrown into the pit of the lion. And the Bible says, even before they go down to the deepest part of the den, the lions had already eaten them. So what can we learn? The Bible says, touch not my anointed ones, do no harm to my apostles, do no harm to the people I call my servant. You have no business with the men of God. Just pray for them. Leave them alone. Do not comment, because the punishment that you can get, it is so severe. It is too much for you to handle. And so, number 2, the biggest lesson that we can learn is that the enemies that you see here, you shall not see them again. This is the same scenario that has been repeated in Daniel, in Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego story. It's the same story that has been repeated in Moses. It's the same scenario. There are so many similarities that are happening, because the same magnitude of the problem you're going through right now, the same problem, the same impact, the dark place that you're in right now. Maybe you are going through a divorce. Maybe you are going through a sickness. Maybe you're going through a very frustration. You are being betrayed in life. You feel a lot of injustice in life. You are losing things in life. The same magnitude of the problem is equivalent to the same huge success you're about to experience. Be very careful when you pray to God that, God, I pray that the enemies that I see right now, I never want to see them again. But let me tell you the condition to that. You have to be willing to go through all through the end, because the same enemy that have been following you were destroyed the very last minute. Moses, the armies of Pharaoh, Pharaoh and his troops and his armies were destroyed the very last minute. But remember, Moses were facing death. They were facing death right in front of their eyes. This is the same situation, but God gave them the victory. God gave them the everlasting victory, because that is the same place that their enemies were destroyed forever. Look at the case of Daniel. It was a case of death. It was a case of, I'm done. If God will not save me, I'm dead. The same thing. And the king said, you know what? These same people who accused you, they have to pay. And the enemy were just, from now and then, they could not see them again. The same case with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So you might be in this situation. Please don't give up. Please don't just start complaining. Don't look back. Don't backslide. Don't just say, oh my God, how did I even find myself here? I know there are people who can provide the solution, but the magnitude of your problem is equivalent to who you are supposed to become. Remember what happened. This was the praise of their enthronement, the victory that the children of God get. Because once they crossed the promised land, they crossed from the Red Sea, and then they could see the promised land, because Moses was not supposed to cross over to the promised land, but God made sure that he could enjoy the view. He saw the side of the promised land. Remember, they were prepared again for another battle, because when they were occupying the promised land, it was battle after battle after battle. This is what Joshua had to plan, because inside the promised land, there were no empty lands, there were no free lands, there were people, there were sons of Anak, there were giants. And that is why you feel people saying that in the land of your promise, in the land that God is giving you and your family, it's not like a land to say, it's the promotion that God has been keeping on your lineage. It is the person you are becoming. Maybe God has destined you to become a greater person. God has destined you to become a greater businessman, making impact international, because he has packaged in yourself the strength to employ 1,000 employees. And when you employ 1,000 employees, God is so happy with you, because you know what? They are the people of God. You are giving them food, you're giving them drink, even if you have employed them. Not everybody is packaged the way you are. The things that God gave you, it's the same thing. Everything that comes from the manufacturer, let's talk about maybe a pressure cooker or something, a designer knows, and it is leaving the manufacturer, it knows the kind of the pressure it can take. It knows it is supposed to be for what purpose. And that is why every time you buy something, you're given a manual. And I'm sure people doesn't read the manual, you just read how to put it on and off and how to operate it, and you just throw it away. But you don't understand your world, because you don't know where you're coming from. When you know the magnitude of God, when you know the truth of the God in heaven, I'm telling you, you will wake up. You will not feel sorry for yourself. You will not feel like, oh God, you have left me. You will not feel pity for yourself. You will wake up, you will take your ground, and you will fight to achieve what is yours. Because why? Because whatever you're supposed to achieve, someone else have it. Whatever belongs to you is having, somebody is enjoying what you're supposed to have. And so you need to understand the kingdom principles. You need to understand the kingdom truth, so that you can get into the promised land. And so I've talked about the size of your problem. It's equivalent to the size of the person you're becoming. And again, the size of the problem that you go through in life is equivalent to who you are in the spirit. Sometimes people confuse and just say, oh my God, why do I keep on going through great battles in life, where other people life seems so easy for them? Because I answer you today and I tell you, because that is who you are in the spirit. The size of the battles and the war you face in the spirit, in the physical, that is the size of you in the spirit. That is you are a big person, creating big waves, making big impact. Number 3 lesson that we can learn from this great story here is that Your enemy shall attack the source of your power. You know, every time that you feel like people are against you, they'll always attack that thing they see in you. The enemies attacked the power of prayer. David loved, Daniel, for example, loved to pray. The Bible says Daniel was praying 3 times a day. And so the enemy saw that power and saying, this is what you're going to attack, without knowing that the source of your power is the source of your victory. And so what happened was, even today, even you watching me, the devil will attack you using whatever is your power. Maybe you are so kind, you're a good person, you're a good man, you're good, you're a good girl, you're a good woman, you're a good man, and the devil will attack that. Maybe you are holy, you love to keep your holiness, and people just say, you know what, you feel like we have seen you, you pretend you are holy. That is where the devil will attack. And so please don't get confused. Don't just say, God, why are you letting these people come against me? I've been good in this path. Keep on pursuing your path. And so number 4 is that we need to revisit a bit of history of these men of God. What made Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and Daniel so strong? What gave them the courtesy and the strength to stand before the king and tell them, you know what, even if God will not save us from your hand, we shall not bow upon your God. Remember these people, when they were in the king palace, yes, and there was like a special meal that the men of the king, they were supposed to eat. And after a season, they were supposed to be evaluated and see who is stronger than who. And you remember that story when Daniel and his men approached the head cook and said, you know what, we don't want to eat the king. Darika said, please cook for us. Yeah, just simple vegetables. That is what happened, because the king's meal was defiled. It was a food offered to other gods. And so, first thing we can see, they were not defiled in their flesh. They had not taken food that was offered to idols. And that made God to give them the spirit of faith, because you cannot do such things with just the normal faith. You cannot believe that with just the baby faith. That was the spirit of faith in action. And so when you be very careful with what you eat, because even what you eat determines what you become. They are food that is meant for the king. They are food, they are behaviors that are meant for the king. And so we see that here, that they did not defile their flesh. And so they remained strong. They could believe God easy. Maybe you are trying to believe God, and maybe the only problem that you have is how the method of your eating. You love eating everywhere. You go to parties, you don't know where people got the meal. What happened? Maybe other food have been offered to other gods, and then you eat. So what happened? Your body starts resisting the truth of God. The pastor preaches and you say, you know what, I can't believe it. It's not even sinking, because your flesh can't accept the truth, because it already have any other God. And so let me just say that after all is said and done, all these people, all these men were crowned successfully. They became stronger. They became great men. They make a very great impact because of what they've gone through. So my question is today, are you going through the same fire of affliction today? My just one simple advice is just pass your test. May the Lord be with you. God will always see you through if you don't give up. God will always make you come out. And let me tell you something, when you walk,
Hajawai mina ye kama suti na dai, kutoka nizaliwe ungwaro, nikicheza na urwaro, akanitoa chini kwa mtaro, jina lake juu Kilimanjaro, kutoka nizaliwe ungwaro, nikicheza na urwaro, akanitoa chini kwa mtaro, jina lake juu Kilimanjaro. Hajawai niangusha. Yesu itakuwa ngori, itakuwa ngori. Mwisho wa story, itakuwa ngori. Bila Yesu itakuwa ngori, itakuwa ngori. Mwisho wa story.
Ananishangaza nasema ulala, kumsifu kazi hakuna kulala. Amenipa mavazi na chakula la, niko fresh, niko fridge, niko kulala. Askari ya majeshi ya bila Yesu mambo ngori, mambo iko mbaya. Nika safari bila visa ya kufika Ulaya. Hii sio movie kaya Peter Pan. Nafuata Yesu pia if Peter can. Kila mtu sifu Mungu hata Peter can. Nani mimi didi hapa but I think I'm done.
Itakuwa ngori, bila Yesu itakuwa ngori, itakuwa ngori. Mwisho wa story, itakuwa ngori. Bila Yesu itakuwa ngori, itakuwa ngori. Mwisho wa story.
Unaitwa Otieno ama Dingori, haijalishi but bila Yesu ni ngori. Itakuwa mudi kuliko awori, kama movie haina stereo. Mwisho wa story. Hii story nani uma, nataka isambae karuma ruma. Yesu amenituma tuma, nikusho bila yeye nikakuuma chuma. Ijalishi umefanya nini nono, love yake kwake nini momo. Alinitoa mimi chini chini lolo, usikatae kumwamini mini nono. Yesu ndo fiti fiti style, yendo mfiti fiti I know. Yesu ndo fiti fiti style, yendo mfiti fiti I know.
Itakuwa ngori, bila Yesu itakuwa ngori, itakuwa ngori. Mwisho wa story, itakuwa ngori. Bila Yesu itakuwa ngori, itakuwa ngori. Mwisho wa story.
So I tell ya, bila Yesu ni ngori. I tell ya. So I tell ya, bila Yesu ni ngori. I tell ya. Mami, I tell ya. Daddy, I tell ya. Nani, I tell ya, bila Yesu ni ngori. I tell ya. Woyo yo yo,
itakuwa ngori.
Woyo yo,
bila Yesu itakuwa ngori.
Woyo yo yo,
itakuwa ngori.
Woyo yo yo,
mwisho wa story.
Woyo yo yo,
itakuwa ngori.
Woyo yo,
bila Yesu itakuwa ngori.
Woyo yo yo,
itakuwa ngori.
Woyo yo yo,
mwisho wa story.
Bring bang 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 bing bang 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 bang. Ari bari bang bang bang. Lele tagari vu aya deng deng deng. Ay, same piece. Way. Ari bari deng deng deng. Bila Yesu dinga deng deng. We the good boys not better than them.
Na shoti baba, give me